tak się złożyło, że film, który w 3D, który realizowała ekipa, no praktycznie film Springersów, wasi koledzy, którzy tam stoją z tyłu i pomagają, czyli Andrzej Waluk, i Łukasz Baka, i Andrzej Cichocki, i Robert Haciński, no z tymi wszystkimi, co spotykacie się na miejscu, robili ten film. No i ja tak zawsze się rozglądam wokół, z kim tak udać się w jakąś wycieczkę. I Sebastian Göhs, który, ja przepraszam, że tak przesadnie mówię, ale na pewno wymawiam to źle, bo to jest tak ciężkie do wymawiania nazwisko, jest jednym z tych współpracowników, którzy właśnie spełniają to coś, co spróbuję określić duchem film springowców. On, będąc na planie, bo oni zbudowali, w CinePost zbudowali taki trailer, w którym zrobili salę kinową. Mówiąc szczerze, my się też tym inspirujemy. W tym cinebusie też będzie taki namiot z salą kinową, który właśnie będzie też służył do takiej przyzwoitej korekcji barwnej na ekranie, bo już w tej chwili, no, mówiąc szczerze, to narzędzia, które mamy, są tak skomplikowane, nie chcę uprzedzać tego, co on będzie opowiadał, ale nie warto robić korekcji barwnej na małym ekranie. Jest różnica, jak robimy korekcję na ekranie dużym. A o Sebastianie mogę tylko powiedzieć, że no, rzadko się zdarza. Właściwie mam takie często poczucie, że w waszej branży spotykam albo idealistów, takich ludzi, którzy chcą więcej zrobić, jakby są zapaleni, albo są tacy, którzy pracują odtąd dotąd. No i Sebastian niewątpliwie należy do takich ludzi, którzy po prostu całym sercem pracują, i on przychodził na plan, stał za moimi plecami, oglądał, co tam, jak ja ustawiam światło, po czym ja wieczorem przychodziłem do trailera i już korekcja była zrobiona. I to jest taka, słuchajcie, to jest taka niebywała przyjemność pracowania z kimś, kto rozumie, czuje, ale poza tym jakby chce dać się więcej. Czyli ja miałem taką przyjemność, co się naprawdę w tym zawodzie praktycznie nie zdarza, bo największym moim problemem zawsze było to, że ile razy widziałem materiał, no to zawsze on był jakiś taki, nie zawsze do końca. I dla mnie najważniejszą osobą zawsze w laboratoriach, w którym pracowałem, był opisywacz światła, kolorysta. Ktoś, kto albo dodawał do mojej pracy coś, albo ją, krótko mówiąc, niszczył. Co oczywiście niszczy nastrój na planie, bo takie materiały są niedobre i źle oceniane. Więc ktoś, kto miał takie zaangażowanie jak on i takie wyczucie, a jednocześnie taką delikatność, i on jest takim dyplomatą. On bardzo często robił coś takiego, że robił mniej więcej tak, jak ja sobie to wyobrażałem, ale przy okazji pokazywał mi jeszcze swoją propozycję. A poza tym, co jest też rzadkie, ja bezpośrednio przed tą korekcją z nim robiłem inny film, korekcję, nieważne jaki, robienie tej korekcji było męką, bo wszystko, o co prosiłem, trwało niesłychanie długo. To jest oczywiście bardzo trudne, bo te narzędzia się bardzo szybko zmieniają i bardzo mało jest ludzi na rynku, którzy opanowują te narzędzia w tak szybki sposób, że cokolwiek sobie życzymy, jest realizowane natychmiast. Wierzcie mi, że często czas i manipulacje, i to dotyczy wszystkiego, co obecnie jest sprawą dotyczącą CGI, że one często zabijają inwencję, bo my mamy w pewnym momencie dosyć czekania, albo to tak trwa długo, że to zabija wrażliwość. A Sebastian robi to po prostu błyskawicznie. Dlatego strasznie jestem szczęśliwy, że tutaj przyjechał. Wierzę, że mu się spodoba na tyle nasze przedsięwzięcie, że będzie już co roku tutaj do nas przyjeżdżał.
Thank you for having us. We are Ansgar Krützmann and I'm Sebastian Göhs from CinePost Production in Berlin. And we are going to show you today the general theme of color grading from set to final, and I brought two different films where we actually did this. And I will give you a small overview of what we're going to show you today. So just introduce ourselves real quick, and then we show you why it's important to do color grading on set, or why it is moving there more and more. The dailies and delivery system of ours will be part of the presentation. I'm not sure, I think the Apple TV just died, so we sadly won't be seeing any of our Cobra app, but if you are interested, we will be able to show it later on.
Maybe I just showed, I will just come up there and it's a small iPad screen, but maybe some of you can see something because the connection just broke right before this, so no big screen for the iPad application. Yeah, but we'll just give it a try.
Right, and after that, I'll run you through what you can expect from a state-of-the-art color correction system and a few bits and bobs that should be kept in mind when you are going with your movie into the finalizing stage, and what should be kept an eye on. A few nicely meant words of advice. And yeah, then I'll show you what we did for the final corrections, and I brought a few still frames before and after to show you the difference, what we've done to the footage. So on the topic on who we are one of the oldest, or the oldest post-production facility in Europe, or one at the top there. We have over 250 employees in the 5 major cities in Germany. We have a subsidiary. We offer end-to-end services from the onset dailies or onset grading services and pre-shooting consulting until the yes, so people might see me. That would be nice. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's good. Thank you. And yeah, basically, if you have something shot on any camera format, you can bring it to us, and we will take care of that. It makes its way onto the screen and looks as good as it can, in a nutshell. And also, we are developing in-house our own applications for internet distribution services, because tape is pretty much dead by now. And I mean, with the latest developments in the market, the turnaround times can't get any shorter, I guess. At least I hope so. Okay, then I'll just show you what I've done so far as a colorist, and I'll play my show reel. Can we have sound then from the Mac? So that was that. Sorry, it's not the most recent material, but I've been a bit busy, and so I haven't managed to edit a new reel yet. But maybe when I come here next time, I will have something ready. So now on the question that it's often asked, why should we do onset grading? What is it good for? I mean, what is wrong with the past decades where it was like it always was? You shoot your stuff on set, you just send it to the post-production facility, like you did with film. They do the quality checking there, they do the color grading, sound syncing, and then just deliver me a DVD, or I get it from the editing room. The thing is that since film is pretty much out of the picture by now, I mean, it really dropped a lot in the last year, and we are almost only digital. And the beauty about the digital workflows, the cameras had become so good to rival film and surpass it in both on latitude and resolution, at least in my opinion. And therefore, we can offer with the latest hardware that got so fast and so small, the services we would need a huge post house to support it, we can deliver on set directly. And this can be done, basically, yeah, this is the old workflow. You just get your material off the camera, you ingest it, do your backups, then send it home in the facility, and let this be us. And then we just would deliver then via Copra here. This is our internet streaming platform for dailies or online review and approval. And this is what Ansgar is showing later on. And you can have also this, this shorter line of work here, where you can just pull your material off the camera and give it to in DIT. Either way, with these. It's a pretty light setup. He will be there with 2 flight cases with a calibrated monitor, so something you can really judge the material on, and a MacBook or a small workstation in another flight case. And this would be the small setup. But if you are shooting more and with more cameras, even if it's just ProRes, there is a point where a single guy with a laptop cannot handle this kind of throughput then. And then you might need something bigger. So a self-contained solution like this. So this is basically a Unimog where we strap the container on its back. It's got its own generator, so it's completely independent, and we've built a grading suite in the back there. It's still with a monitor, but you can put a big-ass Z800 or Z820 in there with a lot of GPUs. And then you can process more material, and you can also put 2 people in there that one is preparing the stuff for the other, so to speed things up a bit. But still, this is more or less, let's say, a medium solution for that. I mean, it doesn't have to be Unimog. It could be any Caravan or whatever, what you make it like this. But if you are going to shoot in stereo, like we did with Measuring the World, then the thing is that the size of the screen matters a lot in 3D. And even if it's full HD that you're seeing, problems with depth perception and the stereo in itself are more obvious at a larger screen size. And therefore, we built this guy here. So this is our on-set Cine trailer. It's basically a cinema on wheels, complete with its own server room and air conditioning. And this is pretty scalable, so you can put hardware in there until you drop. So we actually had this thing on set with the latest Anthony Mantle. That's a Ron Howard film, Rush, and Anthony Mantle was the DOP. And they were shooting the Niki Lauda story, and they had days where they were at the racetracks and were shooting with 26 cameras, all Alexa RAW and Red Epics and what have you. And this was quite a lot of footage, and so we beefed this thing up to the rim, and then they managed to pull this through. But the real good thing about this is that you got a 4-meter screen in there, so you really got cinema conditions in there, and you can judge either 2D or 3D material like you were sitting in a cinema, complete with a 3D expand system. And our preferred color correction software, this is OSD from Colorfront. And this is what I'm going to talk about next, because we have streamlined our workflow for the dailies, because obviously since the move to digital, people are shooting more and more, and just makes sense because you can do this now. And so we had to come up with a solution, and happily the guys from Budapest wrote a very powerful software tool. It's called OSD, and you start with this solution by ingesting your media. Doesn't matter even if you still shoot film, you can just put it on a Spirit, scan it with a one light log setting, and then put it in the OSD system. And the other digital media will enter the old-fashioned way, just via USB or whatever. If you're in the field, so in the trailer or in the truck, then you do your backups directly during this process to ensure the data integrity and make really sure that your source material is fine before you send one backup home and you start working on the on the further process. And this process, of course, includes the quality check. So this means you review your material in its native resolution, in its native frame rate, on a, let's say, calibrated screen, either a monitor or a DCI compliant projector, like we have in the cinema trailer. And you look for bad pixels, for dropouts, broken frames, completely broken clips, or corruption. In stereo, there's a whole bunch of other problems like convergence problems or offset problems, tilt shifts, rolls, whatever. And you look at this and judge if you can fix that in post or not. And then you write your quality report. And during this quality check, you also do your color grading. And the good thing is when you do this on set, the turnaround times are very short, because you can just go over, like I did, to the set of Measuring the World. I went once or twice, even a day there, and talked to Slavomir about what he wanted the scene to look like, to see how he'd set up the lights and what filter he uses and what the general mood of the scene should be. And this helped me quite a lot, because I get a much better impression of what he's wanting to achieve than as if I just receive some stuff on a hard drive, I load in the system, and then I have maybe one phone call with the DOP because he's so busy shooting somewhere on a remote location, and then it's just, yeah, okay, let's hope that it's on the spot, because it's always a process. And the thing is, why this is so important is because if you do the dailies, this is the material that's going to be in the edit for, don't know, half a year, maybe even longer. And it happens that if you especially work with people who don't have the ability to abstract what this material can look like, that it's just basically a placeholder, what will be there, just that you can judge the acting and the timing, but that the colors are not final. And if you do something extreme, then when the dailies were very tame, there will be problems usually, because especially when there's a lot of people involved who all have seen this dailies material in the edit through the process of 1.5 years, and then they come to the final screening, and yeah, then it's suddenly different. And different tends to upset people sometimes. And therefore, we want to make sure that the dailies are as close as possible to what the DOP has in mind, or the DOP and the director. So this is another benefit of being close to the actual production with this process. Yeah, well, the beauty of this is that OSD makes you enables you to push out a lot of dailies pretty fast, and also there is a very great audio sync feature in there. So we synced also all the audio for measuring. So we received the WAV files out of the audio recorder, complete with its metadata, and if you sync your cameras and your audio with a Clockit or similar device, then OSD will automatically match up the time codes, and the metadata from the audio is transferred into the database that is inside OSD, and you just have to push one button and audio material has its audio. You just have to check if it's really frame accurate, because it tends to slip sometimes, but one frame is not really much. And even if you don't sync it, OSD looks for peaks in the WAV files. So it analyzes the audio and shows you, okay, here's a peak, there's a peak, there's a peak. Usually one of the first loud noises in a take is the film clapper. Therefore, it gives you the option just to align this with your clapper in the picture. And what impressed me a lot is when you have a digital clapper where the timecode is running on it, OSD can read this timecode and enter it, actually, even if it's not in the files. So all you have to do is enter the scene name and the shot name, and you're good to go. So, and then, basically, yeah, the cake is complete, and we can start baking this into several delivery formats. So the great thing, what I mentioned in OSD, is it's really based on the latest technology, so highly GPU accelerated. We can push out a lot of material faster than real time. Even raw materials can be processed in this manner, and it does basically the debayering, the color correction, and also multiple scalings at the end, so we can push out full HD for the editing, then SD or full HD for Blu-ray or DVD master. That comes right out of the system. And also for the internet delivery, what we are offering, and a delivery for the iPad. And the good thing is that it's all color managed, so you won't get any drifts like in the olden days when the dailies were delivered to the editing room. They put the audio in and then just played it out to a DVD recorder via FBAS signal, and then you get a nice little shift, and everyone went crazy when they saw the DVD. So this isn't happening anymore. And yeah, this was the spot actually where Ansgar was supposed to show the Copra app. I don't know. Okay then. Somebody pull off the Mac. I can see that.
Is an application for watching and reviewing your dailies materials, so your rushes. So, yeah, and originally we have our own server for this material. We started it in 2008, and when the iPad came out and the iPhone, we wanted to have our own application because we didn't want to put in a username and password every time you wanted to watch your dailies material. Because as you know, when you're on set and you just want to have a look at the rushes from yesterday, I don't know, during lunchtime, then it's a really big hassle to put in a username and this really long, complicated password. And we wanted to make this as easy as possible. So we built our own application for that one. And over the time, this application evolved. We are in the App Store. You can download this application for free. And there's also a demo project coming with it. And just look for Copra, written with a P instead of a B. And you can download it. It's iOS only for now, and we only develop it further from here, at least for the iPad, because we saw that with the iPhone you can use it to watch your dailies, and it's okay. But watching dailies on your small screen on the iPhone, it's not that much fun as watching it on the iPad, for example. Yeah, there are many cool features in there, like you can comment your stuff. You can really do some graphical annotations in there. It's really sad to not show it and only talk about it. So maybe if some of you want to have a look, just ask me. I'll be around afterwards, and then I can show you all the stuff. Okay.
Thank you. So may I have the keynote back, please? Ah, yes. Okay, in Germany we say it's zu früh gefreut. Ah, that's better. Yeah, well, Ansgar covered it pretty much. So we have here a few productions we used Copra for. Yeah, I think a lot of you will recognize In Darkness. This was the Agnieszka Holland movie. I was lucky enough to grade it as well. It was fun. It was very fun, but a bit exhausting because there was a lot to do. So the advantages of internet delivery is yeah, more or less up there on the screen. I think if you are interested in this, I'm not the expert on selling this, because my field of expertise is more like, you know, final color grading and look creation. And before I start with this, I'd like to just tell you a few things that are pretty important to me, because you know, it happens a lot that some of those are ignored, and it always leads to problems down the line somewhere. So at first, that a calibrated reference display device is a must for grading, because otherwise all your hard work, your hours and hours, either you spend them in the suite or somewhere else, will just go to waste because it will never look like that. What you've seen in the screen, what you've intended will always be off. So this is kind of a no-brainer why this is important. And the second thing is that if you're grading for a theatrical release, you should really grade inside a cinema-like environment. So dark room, dark walls, dark ceilings, so very little reflective surfaces, and probably a DCI-compliant projector with a proper calibrated color science behind it, with a 14-foot Lambert on the screen. And yeah, if you do this, especially true for a stereo project, you should grade with your glasses on. We did a few tests regarding this. You know, some people say, yeah, you can just grade in 2D because I get headaches when I have the glasses on, or they're so heavy, they're hurting my nose or whatever. It is not the same as grading 2D, let me tell you that. You just touch the material differently than any colorist would, because also the glasses, you can calibrate the slight color shift you get, and you can calibrate for the loss of light through the glasses. But they still are an optical piece in the flow, and they affect the picture, plus that the 3D hits your recognition of the material, or how you see the material, in a very subtle way that you cannot really grab, but you just handle the material differently. I don't really know how to explain this, but it's I found for myself that it's led to better results when grading with glasses, because I was always looking at it in 3D, and when I did the 2D version, I really missed something there, because, you know, the certain characteristic of the material was suddenly gone, and I really, really missed it badly. And yeah, last but not least, if you're grading for television, make sure that your environment is according to the SMTPE specs. So monitor at 100 candela, calibrated to Rec 709 with a proper white point and a backlight in a fairly lit, fairly dark room, not too bright, not too, you know, with any, you know, lamps or little dogs sitting on top of the monitor, stuff like that. Really just distracts you. Then another thing, I get asked often why we should go to a post-production facility and do our color grading there, because since the hardware got so fast, so cheap, and so small, and the color correction systems that are out there, the applications that you can color correct on, especially with the latest plugins that were happening, why can't I just do it on my laptop at home and send you the master, you encode my DCP, and that's it? I mean, if you are happy with ignoring the first 3 things I just told you, then yeah, you can go ahead with this. But the thing is, it's true, a lot of applications have the feature color correction now. I mean, this starts with Final Cut or Avid. They always had their color effects on the timeline. And now with the Blackmagic plugins coming out, you can take it even further, and you can even transfer the color correction from the editing room, what you've done, to a final system later on, if you wish so. But it's a full-featured tool set. The thing is, I've tried it, and it's a really painful and tedious process working like that, and it's tiring. And it's not like you just, you know, you have your material, you have your vision, and you just slap a correction on and be done with it. This is just not how it works. It's always a process, and, you know, fiddling with the material and reviewing it several times in real time, just like a movie is watched. And then suddenly you realize, yeah, no, that doesn't really work like that. And this is pretty hard if you're sitting at home in front of a small screen in your living room or whatever, and suddenly you sit in the cinema and see exactly the same picture with all the right color transformations in line to transfer what you've delivered to the screen. It just doesn't look like you want it to be. Or, you know, you see it on TV and you just realize, oops, my monitor was off. Therefore, it still makes sense, in my opinion, to go to a post house and book a suite there, because they take care of the equipment. Usually, you get a colorist who knows his stuff and knows his way around of problems. And in the end, the high-end grading system like Luster, Baselite, Filmmaster, Resolve, you name it, are not exactly cheap. I mean, in the case of Resolve, okay, the software is cheap, but the hardware isn't. And you really need this horsepower to work in real time and try different things and just review the material running. And this is a pretty important point. But enough of that. So let's see some tools that you will have in a color correction system. And basically everything starts with a primary color correction. This affects the whole picture. So this is basically a primary color correction. This has been this way since, I don't know, the 80s, since video color correction came around. Back then, there were just one possibility to grade the picture. It was lift gamma gain, so so-called video grade. And later on, with the digital color correctors like Baselight or Luster, came the possibility to work with digitized film scans that were in log. And there was a tool developed, this is called like the film grade, and you just don't have lift gamma gain anymore, but you have brightness, contrast, and saturation. You can work much more in a way a classical color timer in the film lab would do. And I found that this is working exceptionally well on log materials, film scans, Alexa log C, and this kind of stuff. The results are much more natural and look more filmic than you would just achieve with a video grade, but the combination of both is the best in my opinion. But what is this? This is actually log C footage as it comes out of the camera. And but if I want to affect just a part of the picture, I have to do not the primary but the secondary color correction. And what this means is that you create a matte. So basically, this is a black and white picture that can have any contents. In this instance here, it's a gradient. Those are usually created inside the system with various qualifiers or tools. And you can also get those mattes from external sources, like when you have VFX. So the VFX guys, let's say, did a green screen and they already have the matte for the character, then they can just deliver it to you in a black and white manner or as a TIFF sequence with alpha channel, and you can use that for grading and separating the characters from another. So to grade the background and foreground independently. But in this case, if I just want to do a grad, I put it on there and then apply a color correction in there to alter the lighting situation of the scene or the general mood of the scene, and create something that this is not this usual to look at. And this is how this looks like. This is the Luster GUI. Actually, this is kind of my home. I spend a lot of time there. And what you see up there, this is basically here in Luster, this is called a geometry. In Resolve, I think it's called power window. Other people call it different names. It's basically always the same. What this does, this here is 100%, this is 0. Between here is the softness. This here is all white, outside it's black. So that means you can grade these both parts now independently, and this is the transition. And you can basically darken this part and brighten this and draw attention to certain parts of the picture just by drawing a rough shape in there or putting a vignette in there to just darken the edges. You can do gradients, wipes, whatever. And you can also combine multiple shapes with each other to do more complex stuff. So let's say you have a guy walking down the street and he walks behind the lamppost, and you don't want the correction for the guy affecting the lamppost. You can put another shape on top of the first and blend this out so it looks like he really has this color and kind of cheat the viewer into thinking so. And yeah, important to say would be they can have obviously any shape. So this is just splines as you would know from Photoshop or from whatever. And the softness is even, yeah, it's as flexible. You can have different fall-offs from this line to the inner to the outer to really build effects that look light, real light that was put there on set. But I can add this in the right situation afterwards with shapes like this. And to make this complete, we are not yet complete, but what should be mentioned is since we are not working on still images, we have to be able to animate all of this. So basically, I can break this shape and mold it into a completely different shape, and every one of these anchor points, or those you just saw before, those all can be independently animated. The whole shape can move completely free. It can scale, it can rotate. And this is something you can do by hand. And even you can basically keyframe or animate every color correction factor inside the software to fade it in or fade it out or just have the beginning of the shot in yellow and the end in blue, so whatever is desired can be done. And there is another very important tool. This is the keyer, what you have maybe seen in any compositing software that is on the market. Basically, you isolate certain shades or certain objects by its color, so you can key on hue, luminance, saturation alone or in a combination. Any combination is possible. And this way you can do looks like teal and orange, so that you push the whole picture into the blue and then just correct the skin tones into the warm again to get a very vibrant feeling on an otherwise boring looking footage. And you can also combine these keyers with mattes, and this is basically my daily bread and butter, because this enables you to really precisely cut out objects and alter their color, and nobody would be the wiser if you do it correctly. The thing is, you also would have to, if you always want to roto your stuff, this might take a lot of time. What can be pleasant at times, you know, it's the right footage, but you know. But you can also make the system do this work for you. So there are basically two different types of tracking inside Lustre. This is point tracking and shape tracking. Point tracking is basically you just select one feature and hit the track button, and the system looks for the texture you defined in the frames before and afterwards, creates a motion path, and you can just hook your geometries up there, put a correction there. This was actually to protect her lady parts from the audience. So I think she was pretty happy about that. And the other system is the shape tracker. This was implemented afterwards and takes a bit more time, but the cool thing about this is the system looks itself for tracking references. So what you see here, these little white dots are all tracking points that the system recognized. And it will follow these features, and it will itself sort out which to use depending on how tolerant it should be. So zero tolerance means that any references that pop in and out too often would be sorted out to get a more solid track. And you can use this to isolate faces, but you can even have objects pass through that, what would throw a one-point tracker off. This is no problem for a shape tracker. And yeah, this takes away a lot of animation work that had to be done in the olden days before the color correction could track or even move the shapes. So, and there is another entry in the toolbox. This is effects plugins. That means until now I've shown you how you can manipulate the color and brightness and saturation of an image. But you can also do other things with that. So like you can blur the picture, you can sharpen it, you can put a glow on that, or just in certain spots. And there is quite a variety of plugins out there, and the number is increasing. So this is really going now into the visual effects department. And the cool thing is that the high-end grading systems can apply those effects mostly in real time, so you can just play around with this. And you can also do quick touch-ups. For example, this shot here was overexposed. I was able to pull it back down to where it belonged, but unfortunately the forehead of the boy here was burned. And here it's his face. This is looks pretty severe when the picture is 8 meter high, and yeah, you're looking at it in 3D. It just looks flat. It looks like a technical problem. And what we did there was we pulled a key on luminance, so basically the highest code values, and softened it a bit so that I just had the burnt areas. And then we can apply a blur to that. So what this does is it makes the image unsharp, and some of the information from outside bleed into the broken area and soften or soften it as all, because this was just a hard edge. And then you can apply the luminance key as a matte for that, and so it just affects the boy's face anymore, or the burnt areas. And like this, you can touch up a lot of stuff, actually, what would have been VFX before. So you can ask the colorist, just, okay, there's a sign back there on the wall. Can you just, make it out of focus, or slap a solid black over that or whatever. So this is definitely something that puts your budget to good use. So you have the money open for other stuff than unnecessary retouching via VFX. So, and then we come directly to the process of grading. So this is the log-C footage as it came out of the camera. And the first step, I was talking about a calibrated environment before. We put our LUT on top of that. LUT stands for lookup table. I guess some of you might already heard of that. It is basically a way to transform the native log-C or log footage into our viewing color space. So make the flat image look contrasty again, or as it was shot, basically. Before film kind of, went out of the picture, it's not completely gone as a delivery format. But before that, you would use this LUT as your print calibration. So basically, the whole process, what happens if you stick this picture right into the array laser, print it to negative, push it through the processing, print it on positive, processing again, and screen it. This could be measured and baked into a LUT you could use for color correction, and then basically grade in context with the print in mind. Since film isn't that strong anymore, this kind of became a creative process. So you can decide either I want to have my my log-C directly mapped to Rec 719 or DCI-P3 cinema color space, and have all the great bright reds and blues that the camera and the projector can capture, because this is a thing some people aren't aware of. Film cannot display the primary colors, red, green, and blue, as bright and colorful as the digital projectors now can. And since we are not tied to this limitation anymore, we can do pretty colorful stuff now. So we start with a primary color correction like before, and as you can see, this guy starts to look a bit weird. The other guys are still okay, so the skin tones are all right, and the wood and everything else looks okay, but you can tell that something is going on here. And I mean, this is, his face was full of latex, because this guy is, I think, 20 years old, and he was made to look like a really old man in context of the scene. And something was happening with the, I guess, the UV light and the sensor of the camera that makes this material read so different from the skin tones of the other men that we would have to do something about that. So we use a secondary color correction to mold his skin color in a more whitish, desaturated way to make him look like an old man compared to the others that have still very healthy skin colors. Then we started to bring more contrast and depth to the picture. No, not yet, but he was fiddling around a lot, and we lost his hands due to the contrast and his black robe and the black gloves, and therefore we put a mat there and pulled it up, and so we can still see his acting better. And then came the part where we pulled a key on the blue-green tones and pulled out the blue and pushed some more contrast into the picture, because it helps the 3D a lot, and it just looks good. And at the end, we put a gradient on top to get the texture in the clouds back, because the whole thing was looking kind of too friendly, and at some point we came up with this dark and menacing sky, so that this is not this postcard-y, let's say. So in comparison, this was the original, and this is what we've done. And basically this is true for every shot in the whole movie. You go through this thing and then start with a primary color pass, and then from there start to do secondary color corrections and mold the picture into this that you want to see on screen, and you just feel that it's right and it works. And I've brought some footage with that. So this is a picture I've graded as well. This is a pretty straightforward tragic comedy, let's say. It was pretty well received in Germany. So it's Das Leben ist nicht für Feiglinge means basically life is nothing for cowards. And I just rolled a slideshow. And right in the first picture, we see that they had some exposure problems, and these are the first shots of the movie, and we're introducing the characters here, and therefore we had to cater to their faces and make them readable. I have to add here that this is already with a LUT on it, so I didn't have the original log material anymore. This is with a print LUT on it, but you can see where the exposure was. It wasn't really their best piece, but they had some problems with the weather, and therefore we had to fix this during color correction. This was particularly bad, but we managed to rescue this shot, basically just by masking and keying the faces and making sure that the others still stayed as black because they weren't important. And this for all the connecting shots. The thing is, you feel that it's getting a bit grainy in the blacks, but since the rain was really heavily pouring, you didn't even notice that. So it looks beautiful on the big screen. So somehow the weather can after all be a good thing if it's like that. And this was a piece set in autumn. So the DOP asked me to grab all the really leafy greens here, like the grass, and pull it into the yellow. What is kind of unnatural, but he really liked the look and feel that it gave the film, and therefore we continued to do that. And during that process, we also matched the different camera formats. So they've shot, this is red, the one before was Alexa. So we had to treat the highlights a bit differently and adjust the saturation, the different colors. But they matched up pretty well, I have to say. So afterwards, you couldn't really tell the difference. Oh, and yeah, this was actually the first production in Germany that hooked up a Red Epic to an octocopter and did really nice fluid flight shots. So basically the drones that you've been working with the last days, they did this on this movie, and this added really a lot to that. So and then after the warm afternoon, there came the evening, and we had to create something very moody because these two are really falling in love, and it should be magical. And after the evening, of course, there is night, and if you shoot it by day, you go day for night. And that was quite interesting because Chow, the DOP, had in mind to sell this as a moon, and I was at first skeptical, but it works quite well, but only if you go ahead. And the opposing shot was also shot by day, and we pulled it down and made it look like night, but then pull up the clouds again, so you have the feeling that the light is really hitting them. That is explaining where these highlights came from. And this is the morning after, and that is a bit better, isn't it? So this was Das Leben ist nichts für Feiglinge, and now we come to the good stuff. What Slavek and I have done with the whole material, and let's see what we got here. So basically, this is the opening shot, and I was talking before about that it wasn't look so much like a postcard, and therefore we worked quite a lot on that, and came up with this gray sky without any blue and the vibrant red. And this was true for all the interconnecting shots. And you just saw this one came to life, actually, and this was something we had to do for every single shot of this guy, because all the cameras had basically the same problem with the skin tone. So I never touched these two. They were okay as they were. This is the classroom, and this is really one of my favorite motifs in the film, because it really reminds me of a Rembrandt or something like that, because it really tends to look like an oil painting with these vibrant colors and the high contrast. That's it's exceptionally well lit. The projector is slightly too dark because we're losing too much in the shadows here, so it was not that contrasty, but I think you get the picture, what we've done to the footage. So this is always the log C, as it came out of the camera, or we converted the S-log of the F3 to. This one is afterwards. This was quite open and a lot of fog in there, and so we've put a soft shape here and pulled down the outer skirts just to pull attention to the characters, and we did the same here as well. Yeah, so you really can look into his eyes and ignore stuff in the background without losing too much. And here is the same story again. This was quite a lot of fog on set, and we added the contrast back in and saved these two in this area here with a soft shape. And this one here is another good example. You know, we're not interested in this stuff here. We're supposed to look here because here the kids are coming out and those, you know, will get their time. This one, yeah, was the first example I've showed you, so you kind of saw that coming. And here's the one I just showed you how to fix it. You can see how bright it is compared to the other footage. And yeah, the projector is still a bit harsh on the highlights, but believe me, if you see it in the cinema, it looks great. Okay, and then we went to Ecuador together, and there the green became kind of a concept of its own again. That means again, it just had to be different and kind of dark and sometimes menacing, mysterious, and therefore, yeah, we worked on the greens a lot. The sky, and this was always a very, very colorful combination of cyan, of blue, and really vibrant green, what would never have been possible on film. And yeah, since the 3D distribution was very important, we decided to work in the native projection color space, and it turned out quite nice. This was shot at brightest day, and yeah, we pulled it down a lot. This is the scene where Göhs gets his teeth pulled. It's pretty brutal, and therefore it was supposed to be dark and gritty and dirty, and I think we pretty much put it there. And here's the cave I think I've did the most secondaries on, because, you know, we've built a new light source here, enhanced it extremely, pulled all this down, made the torches glow again, because if you pull them that much down, the highlights are still preserved, but it doesn't really look believable anymore, because the torches don't give up light anymore, and therefore I fixed this with keys and masks on the torches to make them glow again and give you the feeling that you are standing in a dark cave. And yeah, this is basically the opposing shot with the light. This is the university room of Göhs, where he's teaching, and in this scene all his students run off because what he tells them is too complicated. And this is another favorite shot of mine, because I just like how the light plays in the fog and the high contrast from the background, and you know, you can just in the right spots you have enough light. And this is a special one. This is the Shimburatsu, and we were discussing at length with the director about this, because usually you would do a snowy scene in blue and white, but Slavomir asked for something exotic, and therefore somebody is in a way came up with purple, and I think in the context of the movie it works quite well. Here's the green again, but we took care that the skin tones do not, you know, drift too much in the direction where they look sick. And yeah, this is basically a very important shot in the film where they two finally meet. This is kind of at the end of the movie. And we had a day for night sequence in this movie as well, but the thing is, in 3D you are already pretty dark through the glasses because you lose a lot of light, and therefore we had to come up with another solution. And so we kind of did this vignette style where you still can have the highlights but pull down the rest extremely, so it looks like a dusk or a night-like setting, but it's pretty stylized, of course. But it looks really amazing in 3D, in my opinion. But enough of that. I think we've come to the end of my presentation, and I'm happy to answer your questions if there are any, and I haven't scared you off yet.
At what point would you start on a production? When the DP starts, or at a later time?
Usually later. I mean, I am a colorist who is working day by day. I'm always open to questions and for a quick test, but I can't be too much involved in the pre-production, of course. But look-wise, I'm always there. You can write me an email or give me a call, and then we get together and discuss this, you know, what works or what would be a good idea, if you need any input or if you have an idea in mind what you would like to discuss. So yeah, the sooner the better, because I think it's a very important thing that all the different personas in a production should be on the same page, because experience a few times what happens when the DP and the director have totally different opinions on how the movie looks like. So this, in the end, nobody's happy. It never ends well, and it creates a lot of overtime. No, I don't have a dog. Thank you very much. I take this as a compliment. Oh, all right.
I've got one question about one of my projects, because I was making the offline edit.
Yes.
And then there was color grading, and the footage returned to me as a DPX. And then I found out that I must do online too, and I didn't quite know how it works with the colors, and I just put it in ingested it into the After Effects, and then I was, the colors was very flat, and I didn't know that. Do I have to use the Cineon converter or something like that in this kind of situation?
Probably yes. It all comes down to what footage it was, from which camera it originated, because every camera comes with its own brand of encoding, basically. I mean, the Academy is working on the ACES system to get rid of that, but if you shoot on F55 or F5, you have S-Log. On the Alexa, it's Log C. They're totally different code value-wise. Then Cineon Log is pretty much there where Log C is, but has totally different color primaries. So this is what color management really is, to know where the footage came from and what LUTs I have to look through to see the material in its true form, how it was meant. Because the whole log thing is basically just a mathematical trick to preserve bandwidth and take advantage of the human eye and our brain, how we perceive an image. But everyone who takes this problem on solves it in a slightly different way, what he believes is best, and therefore you have this myriads, really, of different color encodings. And this is, I think this is basically the problem then.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Pleasure.
Yeah, I got a question. Which codec is the best to work on the color grading with DSLR material?
RAW.
No, raw.
No codec.
No, on a PC, because I got many problems with the ProRes, make on a Mac and play on a PC, and there's a horrible difference between.
Yeah, it's the old gamma problem that the Mac was always using a slightly different gamma, and they changed it over time again and again. Now with the latest Snow Leopard release, I think they've come to the same one as PC gamma. So that is one thing. They if you open a QuickTime, there's also the problem that the old QuickTime Player 7 displays the different the same file looks different in the new and the old QuickTime Player. So what's
the best format when you want to start grading material from DSLR on PC in Resolve?
In Resolve, I mean, you can just put the original data in there, and then it depends on what do you export.
No, because the original data is compressed. And when you're working in the editing program, you're working on compressed data. Then you must export this to the format, like H.264 or ProRes. And everyone who's grading in a Mac, they export to the ProRes and then grading in Resolve. And when they compress material from ProRes to to the stuff when we can watch, like smaller size, the whole thing is terrible quality, have a terrible quality. So is there the different format or a format that you can say that is the best for working on this? Because compressed format from the camera is very bad quality.
Yes, but it doesn't get better by transcoding it. This is it doesn't really matter what's going on. There is definitely the system difference, yes, but the material doesn't get better quality when you transcode a H.264 out of the camera in a ProRes, and it doesn't make any difference to resolve, as far as I can tell.
No, it gets better, you know. It's got a bigger
That would
size.
be really interesting. Can you show me that?
Yeah.
This would be a very neat trick.
Yeah, because the material is the recording is compressing the picture, you know, because this is impossible to get the whole size of the picture on a disc, you know, when you're recording. So
sure.
the camera compressing it.
Yeah.
And when you're working, you work on the compressed material, and then you export to the bigger size when you get all the elements of the picture, you know, and then you get.
But where does the additional information should come from? You just have to compress stuff from the camera.
Yeah, the camera is compressing it when,
yeah,
when
right.
you're recording it.
This is all the information you have. So how can it be of a higher quality when you scale it up or transcode it into a different codec?
So
doesn't work like
I'm asking
that.
you know, when you're recording, compressing it when you are recording.
Yeah, and that's the point. If you record on the latest, what was it? Canons can record RAW or kinda RAW, and this is the best quality you can get out of there. So if you record an H.264, that's it. You're done. You just have the H.264, and it doesn't matter what you do to it. It will always stay the same. You can do artifacts removal on that to get rid of the DCT blockings. Yeah. And this is stuff you can do, but this is an additional processing step. This doesn't happen while you transcode to ProRes. But to answer your question, a good format to work, or what's the pendant to ProRes on the PC side, would be a DNX HD 175 or 220. This is pretty close to uncompressed. I think it has even a higher data rate than the ProRes. That depends on what you choose, but this is the codec from Avid is on the internet. You can just download it, and once you've installed, you can open DNX HD, and you can work with that. The Alexa can record in DNX HD now, if you don't choose to go RAW.
Yeah. Right. Thanks.
I'm wondering for how many years you are the colorist, and as well how it happened you became a colorist. I mean, did you finish some art school or cinema school? Because this what you are doing is you have to have really a lot of, the sense of aesthetic and color and everything, and how it happened.
Thank you, I take this as a compliment. To be honest, I've read a lot of comic books. No. Thank you. My expertise is pretty much self-taught, and I had very good teachers. I've learned from the older colorists in our company, and I've started in 2002 there as an internee, and was supposed to be a cutter for broadcast. But since at a film lab we didn't have any creative editing, so I concentrated on the digital parts, and this was basically VFX and trailer artwork and stuff like that. And then at some point, our company acquired Luster as the digital color corrector. Before that, it was all hardware. So you just had this big-ass Pogel or DaVinci sitting there, and you, depending on how many boards you put in there, the more vignettes you could do, stuff like that. And then with the digital software, the digital color corrector came along. The software color corrector came along. That was all digital as well. They needed somebody to train the colorists how to use the new tools they've been given, because before they could do a grad from the top or do a vignette and do a primary color correction. That was it. More was not possible. And then they had this whole new tool set, what I just showed you. So like trackable shapes, freehand shapes, keys, blurs, what have you. And I was the one who became a Luster assistant, so I've trained them in the system and taught them how to use these tools, because I knew them from Flame and Smoke, because this is what I've used before. And Luster was acquired by the same company, and the system got really kind of the same as Flame in handling wise, and from the way they think the software should work. And so I was always present in the suite and sat next to the colorist and the client and listened to them and looked at what they did. And at a certain point, I realized that, I've spent 5 minutes building a very complex mat, and then would step aside, the colorist jumps in and goes like, okay, yeah, brilliant, we're done. I said, okay, I can do that too. And yeah, from there came the chance. I did the job, they were happy, and then I was a colorist, pretty much. And this was in 2007, I guess.
And the star was born.
Thank you very much. So guys, yeah, what now? Are we finished?
Do you handle data management with the color front as well?
They've implemented the transfer tool now in OSD, yes, where you can basically load an EDL and have the system move the raw data to basically the online storage where you will work from. So yes, but as I gather, there were still a few problems. So yeah, there's still a lot of manual work involved. But we're working with them on that because we have a very intense communication, because they also implemented our Copra app into their system because they needed something for the iPad for streaming. And yeah, therefore, I guess we will find a good solution for this as well. Es war mir eine Freude.